Well, we have some developing information here. This is as we're watching the debate here in Congress over the debt ceiling, and Congress fighting over whether or not they can reach a resolution here, something to increase the debt ceiling. There are developments with regard to the contingency planning underway within the administration. In the event there is no deal, I'm being told by an administration official that the Treasury is planning to give priority to making the interest payments to the holders of U.S. securities if indeed those securities come due and there is no deal here. Translation here, Carol, this is the prioritization that some people have been talking about, that the conventional wisdom within the markets is that the U.S. would be obligated to pay these bondholders first. And the sense here is that in the event there is no deal, that would indeed take place. I need to stress that this is contingency planning, subject to change, and there is no guarantee that, again, we're even going to face this situation. The hope in Washington is that the administration won't have to face this situation. But if it comes to pass that those payments, interest payments, need to be made, then the effort would be made to make those payments, given the circumstances, given the available cash to the government. And again, all part of contingency planning that folks here in Washington are hoping never needs to come to pass, and all of this subject to change as well as developments warrant, and of course determined as well by the revenue coming into the government over the next few days if there's no deal by August 2nd.
And now, Peter, we've been hearing from a lot of guys lately that we're looking at about $300 billion in interest payments per month and well over $1 trillion in revenue. So really, the chance of defaulting, assuming you're paying off those securities that come due first and making your interest payments, the chance of default is a long way away.
Well, you're talking about official default, and of course there are other obligations the government has, Matt, and that's the concern here in Washington, is that somebody's not going to get paid if we reach this situation. Who's going to be left holding the bag, if you will? Will it be government employees who won't get their salaries? Will it be the U.S. military, those folks serving in Afghanistan and Iraq? Someone is not going to be paid if we reach this situation. It may not be the technical default you're talking about, but it might, again, U.S. not paying its obligations. That's the concern here. Maybe that might be enough of a factor to concern the ratings agencies, that sort of thing going forward. So this is a situation nobody wants to deal with, but the message we're getting here is, again, there's at least planning in stages to pay U.S. bondholders if we reach that stage.
You know, Peter, I'm just looking at the markets as you make these comments to see what kind of reaction. We're pretty much where we were. I mean, the equity market is still, we've seen a leg down because of concerns over Boehner's plan. In terms of the Treasury market, really no movement here. We've got the 10-year note at 296, so still well between 3% or below 3%. So the markets, you know, certainly don't anticipate any kind of significant default here. You mentioned the credit rating agencies, though. We could still get that downgrade. Whether this will be enough to appease them, they've certainly sent a lot of warning shots at this point. We still could get that downgrade, and that could have implications for a lot of rates and certainly for the markets.
It certainly would have implications, and the sense we've had here in Washington, particularly after some testimony earlier this week from the head of S&P, is that the ratings agencies, at least S&P, is prepared to wait until August 2nd to see how the dust settles here, to see whether Congress, Republicans, Democrats, the White House can reach a final agreement here before that August 2nd deadline, an agreement that not only deals with the debt ceiling situation, but also sets the country on a better fiscal path going forward. So you're correct in saying the ratings agencies, their view of what's happening here in Washington, critically important right now and something everyone needs to watch.